Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Um, yeah, so it's awesome you're here because it's Friday night, and I'm sure um, you probably have better things to do, but I think not, because tonight is going to be super special and a great time when we can just learn together what it looks like to um, eat with freedom, with joy, without guilt. Um, and I'm really excited to share this stuff with you today. And I hope you are excited as well. So also, I really hope you are also in your after 5 attire. I contemplated putting on actual clothes after I changed out of my scrubs from work today. But then I was like, why? Let's be real. Let's get comfy together. So this is my after 5 attire. And like I said, I hope you are in yours as well. And grab a nice, yummy, warm drink or a fun adult beverage if that's how you're celebrating Friday night. And let's get talking. Alrighty. So again, I just wanted to say thank you for coming out here tonight. It's going to be a great night. So we're going to be going through just a presentation that I put together for you to kind of help guide this discussion or this talk. And I also wanted to let you know that I want to respect your time. So that's why we're starting on time, 8 o'clock, and it's going to be no more than an hour. So you can kind of plan on that. I will be talking through this presentation for about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And then I did want to let you know and be upfront that at the end, I am going to be coming to you and sharing with you some of the options that I have as far as coaching goes and counseling through my holistic nutrition and intuitive eating counseling certification and abilities. So that is something that you can look forward to at the end. Or if you're really 100% not interested, don't feel the pressure to leave right now, because the stuff that I'm going to offer to you, it is a lot of really good, juicy stuff and stuff that I go through with my one-on-one clients. So you'll just get this as like just a fun info session to hopefully go through your life from this point out, just being more intuitive about what you're eating. So this is not going to be something that's just preaching services at the end. It is going to be really good and beneficial, but I do know that a lot of people would benefit from working in a one-on-one setting. So I did want to just present those to you guys at the end. So FYI, just to be upfront with you guys. All right, so without any more blabbering, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just pull up my presentation really quick. Bear with me. All righty. I'm taking it slow. Okay, let me find it. Here we go. All right. So, How to Eat 101. This is a presentation all on the basics of how to eat with balance and freedom. So I hope that's what you'll come away from tonight with, just more confidence in how to choose food and how to go about being mindful with what you're eating, and why it's so important to learn how to, what I'll say in this presentation is just learning how to tap into your intuitive eating ability. And I say just tap into it again because we're all born with this ability to know how to eat, to know how to choose healthy foods and have a good balance. There's no need for, or we were not created to be in fear of food and fighting our bodies to maintain a certain weight. We have this ability that is phenomenal to be able to weight regulate without us even thinking too much about it. Like I said, it comes intuitively. That's what this whole process is about, and that's what you'll be learning at the end of this whole presentation. So get excited. It's going to be a wild ride, and I know that you will come out of this presentation feeling more confident, ready to take on this intuitive eating ability. Alrighty, so hi, I'm Victoria. Just want to do that nice, fun, professional what's it called? Bear with me, it's Friday. Just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. So I am a registered nurse. That is my professional background. And I've worked in a few areas, but my one main passion is just sharing nutrition with women and teaching them how to eat and move and be healthy, free of diets or restrictions. I'm also a holistic nutrition counselor, and I do work with women one-on-one in this area. And my focus in that is on teaching them how to be intuitive eaters. So I'm also an intuitive eating counselor trained by Evelyn Tribole, who is the sole author or one of the authors of the book Intuitive Eating. So I had a great privilege to just learn from her. And so my goal is to share what I've learned in all of this with you. Also, fun fact, I'm a peanut butter on everything kind of gal. I feel like I eat something with peanut butter every single day just because it is one of my greatest loves with foods. So give me something with peanut butter on it and we'll be best friends. Anybody else with that? Give me a little hand raise even though I can't see you. All right. So what does it even mean to be an intuitive eater? This term intuitive eater or intuitive eating is thrown around a lot these days. There is kind of a lot of people that are unfortunately kind of skewing the true meaning of being an intuitive eater and maybe making it sound more like a diet. So you may have heard it associated with, oh, just listen to your hunger, respect your fullness, so eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, that kind of thing. But I want you to know that it is so much more than just eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. There's so much more that goes into being an intuitive eater, and it's really just not quite so cut and dry like that. And it's definitely got no aspects of dieting or restriction a part of it. So if you do come across something that says intuitive eating, but it's sounding kind of like it's promoting being restrictive or any guilt associated with not listening to your cues, definitely be wary. But think to yourself, what does it mean to you to be an intuitive eater? What does that sound like it means? So an intuitive eater is someone who has the ability to listen to their body's natural cues to help guide them in a way of eating to their body's best potential, to their to promote energy, to just feel your best. So part of being an intuitive eater is just being patient with yourself in this process, being gracious towards yourself, because sometimes it's going to be difficult to be intuitive about what you're eating, and that's okay. I want you to know that this is not a something that you perfect. It's going to be a lifelong learning process. And so I want you to remember to go into this with lots of grace, lots of patience. So today I'm going to be going through a couple of the principles that are associated with rediscovering that intuitive eater inside of you. So we will go ahead and get started with the first principle. And these are principles, they're not steps, because it's not like you progress through them one by one, but I will say that the first couple principles you do really want to kind of lump together and work through these first before you move on to the final couple principles. So we'll go ahead and get started with one of the first things you really need to make sure that you are aware of or that you work on is rejecting any diet mentality that's lingering in your head in order to fully embrace your intuitive eating self. So when I say diet mentality, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to be someone who's always on a diet, although I do know that a lot of us women are constantly on one diet or another, or hopping from one to the next. But this can be any kind of restriction or fear around food that you have, fear around gaining weight that guides how you eat and how you choose to eat. Listening to outside cues rather than your inside cues in order to help you make choices about what you're eating. So I like to say, for kind of a general definition of what the dieting mentality is, so you have a good idea, it's any thought that you have about food or exercise that causes you to be restrictive or obsessive. So just think on that, and then ask yourself this question: what dictates what you eat? Are they outer cues or are they inner cues? Are you listening to the world around you that is telling you how you should eat, quote unquote, or are you really tuning into what makes your body feel your best? So this is quite a task of changing your diet mindset, but in order to do this, I want us to think about doing a couple things first. First of all, recognizing the damage that is associated with dieting, and we do know this to be a fact, that there is actual damage that comes from dieting, both biological and physical. Biologically, your body is just not able to process and deal with the calories that you eat quite as effectively when you are a chronic dieter, because it's in this mode of restriction. It's in this mode of protecting against any starvation. So it really wants to and is inclined to cling on to what it is fed in order to just prepare and protect you, essentially. It's a great phenomenon that's in place for times such as droughts or famines or times of food scarcity. But when it's inflicted on ourselves, it's really not a healthy place to be long term. And then also, we really want to think about assessing our environment as far as protecting and cultivating a non-diet mentality. So if that means sometimes you may have to unfollow some people on Facebook or Instagram because they're leading you to believe that you always have to be on a diet or restricting in order to be healthy. Maybe you have to unsubscribe from Shape Magazine or whatever it is that is coming to you and sending these negative signals. And then lastly, retraining any negative thinking that you have, whether you are constantly telling yourself negative things about your body, or that you're constantly reiterating to yourself that you should be fearful of food, when in fact, as we'll learn, fear is not something that should be associated with eating. So this is something we'll call the dieter's dilemma, which is this endless cycle. You may have heard it referred to as the yo-yo dieting cycle. So what we know to be true is we do oftentimes, women will have this, or men. I'm speaking to women in particular, but I don't want to dismiss that men can have this as well. But we have this desire to be thin based on what is preached in our culture, or has been kind of our upbringing. We have this desire to be thinner. So therefore, we may go on a diet and start restricting. But what do those restrictions do to our bodies? Well, like we just talked about, restrictions will cause this biological drive to eat. And so we'll end up with these reduced self-control, increased cravings that cause us to eventually not be able to suppress them any longer, and we lose control and we end up overeating. And what does that lead to? Eventually it leads to regain of that lost weight, because we feel defeated. We feel like we've failed, even though in a sense or in the greatest sense, it is actually the diet that has failed us, not ourselves. So we regain that weight, and oftentimes more than that weight that we had originally lost. And this again just starts the cycle, because we do just continue to have this desire to lose weight, whether it's our doctors telling us to lose weight for one reason or the other, because they feel like it would make us more healthy, or just listening to what our culture unfortunately says is healthy. So I just want to leave you with this thought today as we continue to try to work on changing our mindset as far as dieting goes in this first principle. So remembering just that food is non-moral. It's not something that needs to be good or bad or black and white. All foods are able to be included in a healthy diet. And just remember, you don't have to feel bad after eating certain foods. That feeling of guilt is not one that is healthy or is life-bringing, and it has no true power or truth to it. There is no good or bad food. So just think about that as you're trying to move through changing your dieting mentality. All right, so the second principle is honor your hunger. So honoring your hunger, some people may think, oh, that's easy, I'm always hungry. But if you're really listening to your hunger signals, I do want you to take a chance to right now to think about what are those first signs or symptoms that you experience when you're hungry. Some people may have a little bit of stomach emptiness. Some have maybe a little headache or some fatigue, some shakiness, just maybe even just this desire to eat, which can be a sign of hunger. So think about what those first typical signs of hunger are for you, because when we learn to really respond to those first signs of hunger, we're developing this beautiful trust for our body and trust relationship with food and with ourselves. So that's what we're going to work on with this. But honoring hunger takes practice. It takes practice to learn what are my first signs of hunger. And I do want to step back a little bit and explain why it is so important to respond to our hunger when we first notice it. And the reason for that is because if we let our hunger get too great, we're going to have even more of a drive to eat. And so that can oftentimes lead us to overeating. So if we're responding to our hunger in a loving way out of self-care for our bodies, when we're first noticing those signs, we're going to have just a more stable relationship with food, and just feel more balanced when it comes to eating. So in that same sense, don't give your body a reason to worry about food shortage, because as we had said earlier, when we do allow our bodies to feel like they're being deprived, they're going to hold on to food more, and they're not going to be as efficient in going through their normal body functions. And then as far as honoring hunger, try to choose foods that are composed of the three core components to really fueling your hunger or fueling your body during hunger. So fats, carbs, and protein. So I always try to include either all three if I'm eating a full meal, or at least two of those three when I am maybe just hungry for a snack. And then honor your hunger with something that's satisfying, because honoring hunger, even if you are choosing to honor your hunger and eating something that is not super satisfying, you're going to continue to still want to keep eating to fill up that satisfaction, or keep trying to find satisfaction through what you're eating. So always try to choose foods that are satisfying, foods that you are looking forward to or that you enjoy. So keep that in mind as well. And then try not to silence your hunger. trying to respond to it as soon as you can, when you first notice it, if you can, just to, again, create that trusting relationship with your body, that it's not going to feel this this fear of deprivation. So there are a couple fears that can come from listening to your hunger that a lot of people have to work through, and some of these have to deal with how long someone's been dieting, and that is that there's this fear that if I do always listen to my hunger, maybe I'm always going to be hungry. But when we truly are in this peaceful and honoring relationship with our bodies, then we won't feel like we're always going to be deprived. If we're letting go of those dieting thoughts and that diet mentality, we are going to be able to have more clarity around how we're feeling, what our body's signals are, and what we really are really craving, and when we're craving those. So there are a couple times when you may need to eat, even regardless of being hungry or not. So a couple times when it's okay to choose to eat, even if you're not hungry, is, maybe if you have some taste hunger, you're hungry, or you just want to eat because it sounds good. There's definitely no shame or guilt that should be associated with that. Also, planning ahead or preparing for a time that you're not able to eat, such as if you are, maybe going to a movie and eating dinner afterwards a little later, you might want to plan and have a snack because you anticipate that you are going to be hungry pretty soon in the future, but before you're able to actually eat a meal. And then lastly, to be social. There is such truth to food is a social thing, and it's good. It cultivates an intimacy with people. So eating to be social, even if you're not hungry, still there is freedom to do that. All right, so principle number 3 is making peace with food. And this all kind of ties in, like I mentioned at the beginning, these first couple principles really are the foundation to being able to move forward with your ability to be an intuitive eater. So making peace with food goes along with rejecting diet mentality and honoring your hunger. And these all kind of work together in a beautiful way. But making peace with food is really all about giving yourself unconditional permission to eat whatever you're craving. And this is so important because when we limit ourselves and we deprive ourselves, the cravings, like we mentioned before, are going to be so much greater, and we're not going to feel that control or that balance with what we're eating. So I just want to remind you, there is room for all foods in a healthy diet. So giving yourself permission to not have off-limit foods is so important. So like I said, deprivation in any sense, whether it's limiting yourselves from carbs, limiting yourselves from eating an adequate amount of calories, it's going to lead to heightened cravings for those types of foods that you're limiting, and then a need for larger quantities. So how do we not go through this process? Of course, we don't deprive. We need to let ourselves give ourselves freedom and trust our bodies in how we choose to eat in order to really have this peaceful relationship. So how do you start with making peace with food? The first thing you really want to do is identify any fears that you have with that. A lot of people, when they're, when I'm working with them, that we're talking through this whole make peace with food thing, they're like, oh, but what if I don't stop eating? What if I choose to only eat unhealthy foods? And the truth is that you will learn to stop eating when you're satisfied and you're full, if you do have this trusting relationship. And also, you will end up, I guarantee, finding yourself eating healthy foods because it feels good to you. So the important thing at this point, though, is to just let those all kind of go to the back burner and work on just making peace with all foods and not seeing any foods as superior to others. So every time you eat, ask yourself, is this really appealing to me? Because if it's not, then and you're only choosing to eat it because you felt like it was healthy or you needed to eat it, that is just prolonging your ability to make peace with food. So then along those same lines, challenge yourselves with some forbidden foods. So if you do have any foods that you don't allow yourself because they're in your head not healthy enough, I do challenge you to eat those foods and realize that they're actually not as scary as you thought they were. All right, so principle number 4 is challenge the food police. So this all, again, like I said, it all kind of goes together, but the food police is any of those negative diet mentality thoughts that keep plaguing your head and continue to feed you lies that certain foods are good or certain foods are bad or that you should feel guilty. So instead of having this food police reprimanding mentality around eating, I want you to think of being a food anthropologist. So a non-judgmental observer. So instead of like, oh crap, I ate 10 cookies, how could I do that? And you're beating yourself up. One practice you can do is practice just being a non-judgmental observer. So saying, okay, I ate 10 cookies. That's the fact. No judgment, just a blank statement. But also along those same lines, being a nurturer, being gentle and soothing and asking yourself, okay, so why did I choose to eat that much? What was I maybe searching for to find comfort in and ended up choosing to eat 10 cookies instead of maybe what I really needed was some rest. And then also just awakening that intuitive eater, which speaks from your inside, speaks from your mind and your gut response. And so asking yourself, maybe what am I feeling like for dinner tonight? What sounds good? How many cookies would feel good to me to eat, and really savoring each bite and noticing the flavor and the taste and noticing when you're 100% satisfied. All right, principle number 5 is feel your fullness. So this is kind of the opposite sense of honoring your hunger. So we talked about that, and now we're going to be talking about how to feel your fullness, how to listen to it, to observe, to move through fullness to satisfaction, and be non-judgmental through the process of learning this, because it is a learned experience that does take time. So I'm sure you may have asked yourself this question. I know I definitely have, but you may have asked yourself, why can't I just stop eating when I'm full? Why is it that I could just continue eating? And a lot of us have this mindset that we have to eat everything on our plate, or we can't waste anything. Maybe you just feel this need to just eat the whole, whatever of something, the whole bag of chips, the whole pan of brownies. If there's like one last brownie left and you're like, oh, well, there's only one left, so I have to eat it. Maybe you're just so hungry and you weren't aware of your initial hunger senses and let yourself get to an uncontrolled hunger, and you just can't stop eating because of that hunger drive. So those are all a couple reasons why we fall into this not being able to really tune into when we're satisfied and full. So this is the hunger and fullness scale. It's not to be used as a strict guide, but more just kind of a casual guide, and something that can help you as you're really learning to pay more attention to how you're eating. So you can see that there's everything from ravenous to completely sick, full. And then in the middle is satisfied, both in hunger and in fullness. So a good, nice, comfortable range to stay in would be, around like a 3 or 4 to a 5 or 6. And so just using this as, like I said, a guide that can kind of help you just discover where you're at and be more mindful as you're eating. So I do want to give you a little practice that you can try on your own. Next time you sit down for a meal, think about, before you take a bite, think about where you fall on this hunger scale. And then as you move through your meal, about halfway or 3/4 of the way full, take another note. See, where am I on this? Am I quite satisfied yet, or do I want to move towards fullness? And this is, again, to be a non-judgmental tool. You may find yourself moving to very full or discomfort, and that's okay, but the whole point is to learn this awareness. So again, respecting fullness just means being conscious. It's not something that should be used to be judgmental if you do get to an uncomfortable fullness, but just being aware. And then at that point of fullness, you can decide, do I want to continue eating, or am I satisfied, and do I want to stop? So I've talked a lot about satisfaction just kind of here and there throughout this already, but satisfaction is literally, it's one of the core pieces that everything in being an intuitive eater is built upon. Everything from I'm going to show you that. Everything from even just rejecting the diet mentality, because when you do reject that mentality, you're going to find more satisfaction in eating, to feeling your fullness. When you're able to feel your fullness and respond accordingly, food is going to be so much more satisfying to you. When you're able to respect your body and move and eat out of respect, you're going to be more satisfied in life. So satisfaction really is so key to everything that we're talking about tonight. Okay, so what does it mean to you to be satisfied in what you're eating, in life? Think about that. I know for me, I would say satisfaction with eating is being at a place where I'm maybe a little bit over full, so where I feel a comfortable fullness, but I've eaten something that really hit the spot. So along those lines, it's okay to enjoy eating. It's okay to find satisfaction from food. And actually, it is, being satisfied is a key measure of health with a couple Asian countries, where they focus on not how many calories or how many grams of fat are in a dish of food, but instead on how satisfying the food is. And they were really on the right track, because being satisfied with what you're eating is going to cause you to actually eat less, because it takes less food to satisfy you when you choose foods originally that are satisfying, instead of if you just keep searching out other foods that aren't quite as satisfying, you're going to keep eating more and more in order to fill that spot. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And so just remember, pleasure with eating is not a bad thing. It's actually something that is essential to a healthy diet, a healthy relationship with food, and a healthy relationship with your body. So with satisfaction, ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I like? What do I not like? Using that to guide what you choose to eat. And then create an enjoyable environment. Set the table, light a candle, create some peace to be able to really find satisfaction with what you're eating, and focus on what you are eating and how you're feeling. And also don't settle for the low fat option when the fat full option is what really what you really crave, because again, otherwise you're going to continue to search out for more satisfying foods when you could have been satisfied from the get-go with choosing what you really, really wanted. And then halfway through, do a little check. Just like we talked about with the hunger fullness scale, do a little check on satisfaction. How satisfied are you with these foods that you're eating? Because actually, while you go through what you eat, the food will actually start to not taste quite as good as you become more satisfied. And that's the body's natural way of letting you know, hey, I'm nearing being done. I'm nearly full and satisfied. All right, so principle number 7 is cope with your emotions without using food. So oftentimes I'm sure you've heard of emotional eating, where sometimes we turn to food to comfort ourselves, because the reality is food is comforting, but we turn to foods as the main comfort for our souls. And unfortunately, the downfall is that food can't be that emotional support that we need oftentimes. So we continue to eat to seek out this comfort for our emotions, but are not able to find it through food. But there is a truth that food does elicit emotions, and that's a good thing. There is a good amount of comfort that food brings. Think about Thanksgiving, which is coming up, where you're going to be getting all the wonderful smells in the kitchen, and it's a great time of year that brings a lot of joy and happiness for people. And then also think of like coffee when you're waking up in the morning. It elicits this happiness to start the day. Or like a bowl of soup when you are when it's cold outside, and it warms you from the inside out even before you take a bite. So food does elicit emotions, but the problem is when sorry, I'm going to change my slides here. The problem, sorry. Alrighty. So the problem is when food becomes the sole comfort for what we're going through. So there is a point where instead of just being our comfort or just some gratification, it becomes distraction, it becomes a sedation, or even it becomes punishment for us to just drown in the food, drown our sorrows with food. Just remembering that food is not going to meet every single need for you emotionally. It may comfort you to an extent. It will comfort you, I guarantee, to an extent, but after moving forward with continuing to just seek out food instead of what you really need, it's not going to satisfy. So maybe what you really need is you need nurturance. You need a hug from someone. Maybe you need some distraction from something that's going on in your life. And maybe you really just need to deal with your feelings and talk it out with a friend or with a counselor, or journal, whatever, however you best deal with your feelings, or however you feel that you need to with the situation, instead of turning to food, which won't supply all of your needs with that. So principle number 8 is respect your body. It's so important to respect your body. Even if you can't 100% say at this point that you love your body, you've got to show some respect for it, for all that it gets you through in life, throughout your day, and learn to just accept who you are today, not who you'll be after getting to a certain point, but who you are right now today in your skin. So this means coming to terms with some of your fears, fears that you may sometimes be, maybe giving up. If what your goal has always been to lose weight, but through this process you're realizing that weight loss is just not the answer and not a healthy way to move about your life. Maybe you are feeling hypocritical, like you're having to fake it. You're really not loving your body, and you're just having to kind of go through the motions. Other fears you may have are embracing dreams that you have right now, regardless of your weight. It's so important to not put our dreams on hold because of where we are with our weight. There is so much of the world to see and so much of the world to be involved with instead of holding back because of that. So why respect? Respecting your body means treating it with dignity and meeting its basic needs. So respect can look like reminding yourself that your body needs to be fed. It needs basic food and water to function. So that can be a form of respect. It needs to be treated with dignity and not talked bad about. It needs to be dressed comfortably too, and not trying to fit into skinny jeans that you wore 10 years ago. Your body may have gone through some changes that are 100% natural, and respecting your body during this time and learning to continually respect it means dressing comfortably through our stages of life. It also deserves to move comfortably and not in a forceful way through obsessive exercise. And lastly, just it deserves to be touched and not pinching at fat rolls, but touched affectionately and with respect in a loving and gentle way. So principle number 9 is exercise with a mindset of self-care. Like I just mentioned, moving in a way that feels good and is respectable means exercising as a form of self-care, not out of guilt or out of fear of gaining weight, but out of a loving relationship. So what is your attitude around exercise? Are you exercising because you feel like you have to? Is it a begrudging chore that you feel like you have to do every single day or a couple times a week? Or do you look forward to it? Do you love it? Is it your time that you can't do without? So there are a couple ways that you can be sure to move out of self-care instead of simply to burn calories. And so first of all, it starts with decoupling exercise from dieting or weight loss. So oftentimes when we're on a diet, we will tend to only exercise when we're on a diet. And so therefore it gets coupled up with our diet. And so when we're not on a diet, we don't even step foot in a gym or outside to move or exercise in whatever way. But if we get rid of that connection with dieting to weight loss, we're going to find that there's more joy that can come from moving. So I want you to focus on how exercise feels to you. And then find a movement that gets you excited, whether that is maybe you love going to the gym and that's totally your thing, but maybe you hate it. I know that I can only do so much gym and then I'm like sick of it. But maybe you love to go outside and go for a run. Or maybe all you really love to do is just walk, which there is nothing that says that walking is not counted as exercise or that it's, quote, not enough. So just find a movement that feels good for you. Maybe it's walking up a couple flights of stairs to get to work instead of taking the elevator. Just adding some extra movement just to keep your mind juices flowing, your blood pumping, and just keeping you in a form of self-care instead of instead of just moving to look a certain way or change your body into a way that it's not meant to be. All right, we're at our last principle, which is moving towards a place of gentle nutrition. So this is the last principle for a reason, because we really have to focus on, if you're still struggling with getting rid of that dieting mentality, or you're having a hard time with making peace with food or listening to your hunger and fullness, you really have to kind of work through all of those before you come to a place of gentle nutrition where you're able to love your body through nutritious foods that give you energy, that make you feel your best. So definitely this has to be one of the last things that you work through. So what is healthy eating? It's that balance of eating healthy foods and having a healthy mind about food. You'll find that as you do move through those other principles, that you develop this drive to nourish your body. And I do want to just point out that everybody goes through these processes at a different rate. So you may take a little longer than other people, or you might become frustrated because you're not quite yet ready to move into this place of gentle nutrition. But you will definitely eventually get to this place where you want to eat what feels good to you. You want to eat what tastes good. You want to eat quality foods and fruits and vegetables and just a beautiful variety. So this definitely will come. So I go back to what I've kind of said throughout this whole thing. Questions to ask yourself when you are choosing a food, even through gentle nutrition. Asking yourself, do I really like this food? Do I really just love it and enjoyed eating it? And then how does it make my body feel? Those are two questions to use to guide you through this place of gentle nutrition. All right, so those are the 10 principles to reawaken your intuitive eating self. So I want you to think back on all that we talked about and think about what are some of your first steps that you need to take to become an intuitive eater. Maybe you need to work on rejecting the diet mentality. Maybe you need to work on finding satisfaction with food and enjoying what you're eating. Maybe you need to work on your movement out of self-care. So think about that for you. All right, thanks so much for joining me today. So if you are interested, I am going to be sticking around to talk about my one-on-one coaching program. And so I do want to give you two options though before we close out. And I want to just let you know that if you need anything, if you're wanting to go off and work on these principles yourself and work towards a better relationship with food and your body, I just want to let you know that I have your back. And so if you need anything, shoot me an email if you run into any traps along the way. But if you are interested in joining me and working one-on-one together, having someone challenge you and push you to really work towards becoming more intuitive and having a healthy relationship with food, if you want to find that health and nutrition, feel your best self without having to listen to another diet or ever pay for another exercise program again, I want to give you a couple options for working together. So what working together one-on-one would look like is we would set goals together towards a healthy life that comes free of diet rules or health rules or restrictions. I'll teach you how to learn to take care of your body from a form of self-care and a holistic nutrition approach. I'll help you understand your body's individual needs and cravings and recognize your signals of hunger and fullness for more balance with your life. We will work through negative body image to help you feel more confident in your skin, and then a bunch of other things that you can read right here because I feel like I'm reading. I don't want to, but it really is a place where we will be able to work individually together to get you to work through your past history with dieting and work to finding freedom with food once and for all. So this is for you if you are ready to ditch the diet mentality once and for all, kick it to the curb. If you've spent your life restricting and you are just ready for freedom to know how to eat in the way that your body was made to eat. And definitely for you if you're ready to find your best, feel your best, find joy with food, and learn what it takes to feed your body well without diet rules or restrictions. So for you, because you have stayed and listened to this whole presentation, I wanted to offer a humongous discount to my coaching services. So for 3 months, we would be able to work together for less than $1,000. How's that sound? 3 months of working together one-on-one every single week. And it just think about how much you spend on a gym membership or with diet programs that you've invested in throughout the years, and just think of this as your once and for all time to learn how to take care of your body in a sustainable and life-bringing way. So that's the 3-month program, which is probably the best time frame, just because it does take a little while to move through all of these principles and to move through getting you to a place of intuitive eating. 1 month is also an awesome option, but it would only be for 4 weeks, and but it is definitely still a great option if you feel like 1 month is good for you, and you can always add on afterwards. But for less than $300, for $297, you can have a full month of coaching. And then the 6-month option is great too if you really just want to work on this and invest in this future that you have with your health. So if this is something you're interested in, or even if you're not quite sure yet, feel free to schedule your free call and we can chat about what this looks like, and we can go over how working together would really make a lifelong difference for you. So if you're ready to go ahead and make that commitment, go ahead and click right here and you can schedule. Or if you are still on the fence about it, feel free to still click there. Or if you even are not interested and you're just like, let's just chat and maybe learn a little bit more, feel free to schedule a call. I'd love to get to know you guys better, so we can definitely connect that way. Alrighty, so thanks for tuning in. I will be emailing this out to you guys just to give you a chance to look through it again, and if you missed anything you can kind of go back and listen again, and also give you the link to be able to schedule that free call, or go ahead and sign up for services. So hope you guys have a great night. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night. Bye.